The 9 Years Podcast.
Episode 25 of the 9 Years Podcast, and we're kicking off with a tune. Sleeper, What Do I Do Now? A forgotten classic, if I do say so myself, and certainly blows away the cobwebs if you're one of the dozens who are listening to us in the early hours of another long working day. My name's Nick Draper, joined by Stuart Deakins, and we are the weekly audio fanzine for AFC Wimbledon. Thank you once again for listening on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud and Podomatic.com. All 5-star reviews on iTunes are gleefully accepted, as are all your comments and suggestions on Twitter and Facebook at 9YRS Podcast. And on email now, of course, if you wish, email us with your suggestions, 9YRS@nave14.co.uk. Now, we've come off a free weekend with no football for us Wimbledon fans, nothing. Even our under-21 London Senior Cup game was cancelled on the weekend. So, Stu, what did you do with a free Saturday in the football season? It's not natural, it's not normal, is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare this weekend, actually, because I literally gave Cambridge in this last weekend just to recharge my batteries on my kind of holiday and just get things up to date. So I thought, under 21s this week, I'd get back into swing of it, and it was called off. So, yeah, I had a couple of weekends without my football, which people know me, that's not good news. So, yeah, disappointing, but just chilled. Watched a bit of the FA Cup third round weekend. Always a good weekend to be able to view.
Yeah, and we'll get onto the FA Cup and what happened, especially focusing on the League Two teams and how they got on the weekend shortly. But as we mentioned there, you sort of had it in mind to go to the Under-21s game. We were meant to be playing, or we were scheduled to play London Bari in the London Senior Cup. The weather, and it was raining, it seemed like it didn't stop raining from about Monday all the way through last week. It was ridiculous. It sort of somewhat spoiled what I had in mind for my little trivia question this week, but I'm going to go with it anyway. And that was, with that London Senior Cup tie in mind, my question for you this week, Stu, and for the listeners, and I'll reveal the answer at the end of the show, is can you remember our opponents and the score in what would have been our first London Senior Cup tie post-2002, so sort of under the guise of AFC Wimbledon? I'll leave you to mull that one over.
Yeah, cheers for that. That's a good one.
That's all right. That's all right. When it comes to you, I'm sure it will do, it'll be like that light bulb moment, and you'll be like, oh yeah, of course, I'm sure. And I'm sure there are many others. There's going to be a few of you listening, I'm sure, that can recall it just like at the click of a finger. We'll get there. I'll mention the answer at the end of the show. FA Cup then. Let's have a look at the weekend's action. Lots of League Two teams in action, not us, sadly. I suppose the place to start is at the Casam Stadium on the Sunday, where Oxford early kick-off, live on BBC Wales, and I'll discuss the Welsh influence on this season's FA Cup shortly. But they put off a fantastic victory to beat Swansea. I mean, Swansea did make I think about 8 changes, but they still had a very strong side out there with some very strong players. And they made it was a fantastic fair play to them 3-2 victory. Oxford at the start of the season were tipped to do well this season, and we on our show we didn't really think so. We couldn't really quite see it, having Michael Appleton in charge, who'd struggled somewhat and with a squad that on paper didn't look particularly great. But Kemal Roof at the moment is in insane form, and they did very, very well to get through to the 4th round, flying the flag for League Two this weekend.
Yeah, done well. And it's interesting with Roof, isn't it, in terms of transfer windows open. There's a lot of interest already, isn't there, in him. So you wonder whether, I wouldn't say he got national coverage because it was on BBC Wales, wasn't it? But definitely people in Cardiff and Swansea and Newport will be aware of him. But it's a great win for Oxford. I must admit it's frustrating, actually, because I didn't realise it was on until a couple of mates sort of said, it's on BBC Wales. Come on, trying to find it. I think it took me until the 70th minute when Swansea scored their second to finally find it on the BBC iPlayer. But it's good in a way. It's nice to see that the Welsh clubs have their own sort of like dedicated channels, isn't it? I mean, to pick off the Welsh. Because who have you got? Newport, Swansea, Cardiff. So I suppose BBC Wales can show to rotate them through, can't they, really?
They showed out the load this weekend, obviously, with Cardiff game being on S4C as well. It does make me laugh a little bit. I was watching some of the game. Fortunately, on Sky, you have all the regional channels. Swansea fans singing a lot of songs about being Welsh and proudly flying the flag for Wales. And it makes me wonder, I'm thinking, well, 2 things. One, would you not like to play in your own league if you're Welsh? really. And similarly, singing songs about representing Wales, I thought it was great to see the goal scorers for them on the weekend. I think Montero, that well-known Welsh midfielder, and Gomez scored the other goal, again, Welsh. So, flying the flag there, well done for the Principality. Is that me being a bit harsh?
It's like an identity crisis, isn't it? It's like playing in the English FA Cup and playing around the English players. I think the only English player I could probably, off the top of my head, was Cork. Obviously, Alan Cork's son was playing centre midfield. So I think there wasn't many, was there? There wasn't many other English players.
No.
In that a lot. So, yeah, I don't know. We've had discussions before about the fact that they're still allowed to enter the FA Cup in England. And, I suppose as long as they play the English Premiership, then they can. But I don't know if they still enter the Welsh competitions, do they? I think they still do, don't they?
I don't think they actually enter the Welsh Cup anymore. I think that was cancelled. But I do think there was, if I remember correctly, there was talk fairly recently in the last year or so about these teams being able to access European competitions via the Welsh Cup by entering teams winning the Welsh Cup and getting in that way. So I think they were looking at re-entering it and doing that, which was cheeky in the extreme. And I've heard no more about it. So fingers crossed that is the last we hear about it as well. That's the FA Cup. Any other League Two teams that took your eye on the weekend?
Well, it wasn't a bad weekend, was it, for the League Two teams? In terms of, you look at on the Friday night, Exeter getting probably a well-deserved, in the end, draw and a replay back at Liverpool. I have to say, I watched the coverage on Friday night, and I have to say, I think you and I are pretty good at disagree slightly, but I do. Jurgen Klopp does make me laugh in the fact that Exeter bless and put him into a tea room to do the interview, which I think was just priceless. And he's very good in interviews. Yes, I do think he had a few digs at us, English football, but I did love the way that he didn't try and camouflage the fact that his keeper couldn't catch a corner, and the way he said that it was on BBC TV Live, and it was a full package. I thought it was quite entertaining, but I don't think he was impressed with the draw, was he?
I don't think he was impressed at all with getting a draw. I think that was the worst result of the lot for him. It was interesting. I think you're quite right. I had my moans about Jurgen Klopp on the weekend. First moan was really his team selection, and I know that there's lots of arguments about injuries and things like that. Conversely, the flip side of that was he did have some established first-team players that he took in his matchday squad all the way down to Exeter and decided not to play them, kept them on the subs bench, which was interesting. You're right, he's a very engaging speaker and very entertaining speaker, but there was a level of calculation I just felt coming off him immediately after the game on BBC, where I thought, there's a lot of acting going on here to sort of cover up what is some frustrations he's got, genuine frustrations, but there was a few little digs about it. I think he was sort of thinking, I can't believe we've got another fixture now to fit in, another game to fit in, but that's how you like it in this country. And it was like, well, hold on. I'm paraphrasing slightly there, but that's not far off what he said. I was like, well, hold on, Jurgen, that is how we do things in this country. That's why you've got quite a large television deal for the FA Cup, which is earning yourself and your football club a fair sum of money as well. So, you know what I mean? It's swings and roundabouts, really. You have to take the rough with the smooth.
Definitely. But I would say that it was priceless. I think it's a priceless interview. And I imagine the BBC, whoever interviewed Jurgen, must enjoy it. But I don't think he gives anyone a deliberate hard time.
No.
It was a funny thing at the end where the interviewer said, thank you for joining us, and straight away he said, I had no choice.
Yes.
I just found funny, he is engaging, you're right, he didn't like the Exeter pitch. I don't think he likes anything about Exeter, but hey, that's the FA Cup. And it's why we love it, isn't it? I'd also say Exeter, it's not sour grapes, but last year Liverpool put our first team out against us, and whilst it was great they got through, how we would have fancied ourselves against that team last year when we got Liverpool, because that was a weak Liverpool team.
We'd have comfortably beaten that Liverpool team that were playing against Exeter. I have no doubts about that, with all due respect to some. And there were a couple of youngsters that did stand out, and they've obviously got a few talented youngsters, but generally that team looked like a team of strangers at times.
It was.
It was a shame.
As a result, Wickham getting a draw against Villa. It's quite interesting because Wickham seemed to, their pitch I think was not as watered as it normally is, because Wickham seemed to stay up on their feet an awful lot more this weekend, which was interesting.
Did you think it was a penalty? Do you think it was the right decision to give the penalty?
I think he led with his elbow. I don't think the player made too much of a meal out of it. It's one of those ones, I think it's a harsh penalty. I suppose if I was a Wimbledon fan and that was us as a Wickham team, I'll be shouting for it. Whether you think you get it, debatable. It was probably a home penalty, wasn't it? It was harsh. But I think Villa just have no luck at all this year, have they? And
Villa.
Quite their reaction after the game.
Yeah, Villa, without wishing to sort of digress too much away from sort of League Two and stuff like that, but we'll mention Villa because this is issues that affect all fans, I think. We've all seen the scenes during the game with Michael Richards and after the game as well with the team coach. Aston Villa are struggling big time, okay? We all know this. They're on course at the moment for being one of the weakest teams in Premier League history. I'm pretty confident they'll get more than the 11 points that Derby managed a few seasons ago. But their squad is not as bad as their league position and their points tally really suggests they are. I don't think. I think they've got some quality players at that football club and they are seriously underperforming. So do you understand obviously you understand the frustrations of the Villa fans. Do you think, and I'm not sure if you've seen the scenes after the game, but some people said Villa fans crossed the line with the language they used, with the accusatory nature. I personally think, yes, they did in certain respects. Where do you stand on it? Do you think they were corrected to sort of scream abuse at the way they were sort of afterwards?
I don't understand it. You'd have thought they got beat. I don't know whether they actually thought they lost the game.
Might have felt like a loss, yeah.
Yeah, it felt like a loss. I saw some reports saying they couldn't even beat a League Two team. Let's be no disrespect to Wickham. They're a decent League Two team. And I suppose a team you don't want to face if you are Villa, who are not used to winning football games. I would say, you're right, I wouldn't disagree. Villa team, when you look at it individually, has got some useful players. And probably are underperforming. I think, like I say, the appointment of bringing in a French manager into football, no experience of managing the English team, makes you wonder. I suppose he's gone up in League 10 games now without winning a game, so frustration on that side. When you look at teams, I'm trying to think now who's actually got the record for the lowest amount of points. Is it someone like Derby or something?
It is Derby with the 11 points.
Derby, isn't it? Yeah. If you look at back at that Derby team, you have to say, if you compare these teams, Villa got a very good team compared to that, and you can't see him getting out of it now. I suppose the fans are probably hoping that maybe the FA Cup may give them that little bit of a boost in form and push it through. But there are problems. You have to praise Michael Richards for confronting the fans. He was just trying to talk to them, and we do sometimes moan about Premiership players being a bit aloof from their fan base. Well, he went and engaged with them. Yeah, I was chatting to my girlfriend about this. Quite interesting about the Villa reaction, and she said, I'm going to say it, but you're not going to like me, but it's only a game of football.
Yeah.
I did say, yeah, but you come to football, you know what it means to fans, and then fans are rightly showing how frustrated they are with not just that performance, but I think for the last 2 or 3 years of Villa.
Other League Two teams that performed admirably, Portsmouth got a draw away at Ipswich, who are performing well in the Championship at the moment, got a 2-2 draw and a replay. There were also notable performances from Northampton, who got a draw and a replay against higher league opposition, which we'll just leave there, I think. And also Newport. Why was it notable? Because, funnily enough, Stu, Newport's home game was postponed. Can you believe it that in inclement weather, Newport couldn't get the game on?
It is, and it's interesting. I don't know if you read in the paper over the weekend, but John Sheridan's not happy at all with the ground staff, and did basically say very bluntly that we knew it was going to rain. Why do we not have covers on the pitch? And why did the game not go ahead? Now I'm thinking, to be fair, if you'd been there last season, you'd be putting your hair out by now, because they've actually had a good record of games losing to the weather than they did have last year. So
I think they had more games postponed last year than they did actually play games out at that stadium. It did seem to be ridiculous, but there we go. They should take a leaf out of Eastleigh's book, whose pitch was in a shocking state about half an hour before kickoff. But a bit common sense as well, I think, from the referee as well to help them out. But they got their game on with Bolton and were rewarded with a point, dear me, with a draw and a replay.
But isn't that good though, the FA Cup? I'm sorry, but for all us older people, and you'll probably, to be fair, probably well before your time, and before my time as well, but you remember the scenes we've all seen of Hereford versus Newcastle, back in the late 60s, early 70s, where Rafa scores that goal on a pitch that has no grass at all. That just really symbolises the FA Cup. I don't like these games being played on decent pitches, so I like the Exeters, I like the easy pitches. It's what the FA Cup's about. It's a leveller, as they say.
Absolutely. And speaking of leveller between teams at different levels, we'll switch from the FA Cup to the FA Youth Cup for our sort of main topic for today's show. And last week, obviously, our under-18s performed magnificently, going up to St James's Park in Newcastle to win 2-1 in the fourth round of the FA Youth Cup and secure a home tie in the next round with either Manchester United or Chelsea. We were saying before, Stu, weren't we, about being in such company, is how well it reflects on our football club and how nice it is that we're put in the same bracket as some of these clubs. We did outperform a Premier League academy side and deservedly win. Deservedly take a 2-1 victory with 2 goals from Alfie Egan, who also scored the late equaliser at Watford in the previous round. What an evening it was last Wednesday.
It was a great, it was interesting because once they beat Watford in the previous round, we had a few mates that went. I've not seen the the under 18 squad, this year. However, I have seen a few of them. They've basically crept into the under 21s. There's a few now that have been able to already step into under 21s, and they're the likes of Daniel Anno, who plays up front for them, Paul Canabai, Will Mannion has been around that as well. And it's just good to see now them progressing through. So I haven't seen the under 18s play yet, but by all accounts they are an impressive outfit. And we're going up to a Premiership team with all that funding, etc. It's just really, really great win up there.
A lot of the comments from people that we know that sort of have gone to see the under-18s and actually travelled up to Newcastle. About 150 of our fans travelled up to Newcastle, which is an extraordinary effort for a midweek game in Newcastle on the coach and on different trains and what have you. I have noticed that the under-18s have got very much a crazy gang type spirit that's being embedded into them. And that's what's helping them overachieve at the moment. We talk about overachievement. Following on from last Wednesday's win at Newcastle, we then played a team from Buckinghamshire in our sort of development league on the Saturday and beat them as well, with a team that I think only featured 2 players from the side that beat Newcastle, which shows the strength and depth that we've got in our academy, our setup at the moment, but also the fact that, there's no excuses there. There's no hiding place. There's no, well, you've had a big game in the week and we're going to let you off. No, it's go again and win again. I think it goes back to that comment from, I think it was Alfie Egan that had that comment before after the Watford game. So what if you're Premier League? We're Wimbledon and we're coming here and we're going to win. And I think key to that appears to be, from the outside looking in, is definitely the work of Mark Robinson, who's been in charge of the academy for a number of years now. What have you heard about Mark Robinson and sort of how highly regarded is he within the club?
Well, I think he's very highly regarded in the club, and he was involved in the early days when it was quite obvious that we were something. When we first started back in 2002, we actually were just entering Sunday leagues.
Yeah.
So when you look back at how, I can't remember actually when about it started, but we're looking at association must be looking close to 8, 9, 10 years with Mark, and I know he's held very highly by a lot of people within the club, especially for the dedication and the work. Because there's a lot of work to go in. Youth development is not easy. It's full of, you've got kids that are developing, you've got parents who are probably putting pressure on you to play their kid, and why kid not playing, all that sort of stuff. But we have to remember, it's I think sometimes when us as fans, we become a little bit blasé with League Two, and we're not going up, we're not going down, as the famous song says. But that time back in Manchester when we got promoted, it opened up for the youth development a massive funding. And that's what keeps us going in terms of that funds. The amount of money that goes in now from youth development, it means we can get our rating, so we could play against these decent teams. And I think he's done a great job. I really do. I know he's a very passionate man, very passionate about Wimbledon as a club, and he transforms that into his players. It's interesting when you have comments from them about Will Wimbledon, we're better than the rest. You know, we're Wimbledon. It's a very defiant. It's a very much it's our club, and because a lot of these players have been there since the age of 8, 9 years old, that's their club. That's all they know. It's not actually the club they play for. It's a lot of times, I imagine, probably their club they support as well.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things I want to sort of follow up on there. Now, when you mentioned about getting into the Football League and the funding it then brings, I think it's actually been handy. I know we've had a lot of angst amongst our sort of support base over the last couple of seasons where we've had some very mid-table seasons and not a lot's been going on and people have been questioning the management sort of thing. The flip side to us being sort of consolidating ourselves in League Two, we did say this during our non-league days that there'd have to be a period where we need to, just as a football club, just consolidate and sort of get all things behind the scenes in place and in working order. And being in League Two now for fifth season now has actually helped, I think, with the structure of the youth side of the academy, bedding that in, getting all those things in place. So we're actually now in a position where not only have we got a great level to our academy, that we actually see the benefits of not even having a strong under-18s and under-21 side, but also the progression, as we've talked about many times in this podcast, of players then making that jump into the first team, which is imperative for us as a football club with a small budget.
I think it is, and if we look back at the funding is massive. If we look back, going back probably one of Premiership days and Conference South, we struggled to keep our academy. It wasn't really called an academy back then, but effectively what the academy is now. We struggled to bring players through, and the massive problem we had was because we went up the levels so quickly that the players we got in, if we did want to try and bring them through, actually, because the level they got, we went up the league and went into Conference National, it becomes difficult. If we try and look back at what players production line, you've got to look at Jim Fenlon, Brendan Kiernan, Jack Turner, Chris Hussey. Chris Hussey effectively come off that academy, even though we nicked him from Wokin's academy, I believe. But we have had some decent successes come through from our academy, but I think it was a lot more difficult back then. I suppose now we've got challenges of trying to get youth players into a League Two setup. And there's no guarantee that these players now that are in this under-18 team will get there. But I'd also argue the fact that the FA Youth Cup, and I think Nuardi's alluded to it this week, is that there's some players that have played 100 league appearances who've not done well in the FA Youth Cup. And there's some big academies out there. Newcastle's, being a sad person that I am, before the game, try not to worry myself. I actually looked at Newcastle United scores against other academies to give yourself a bit of an idea. And they beat Man U's academy under 18s 3-1 at home. They also beat Liverpool under 18s as well. So they weren't any mugs that we beat on Wednesday night. And their goalkeeper is England under 18 goalkeeper. I don't think they liked getting beaten in their own backyard. So I think it's important to think that Newcastle aren't the strength of their Premiership team that would very much continue to disappoint their fans. They're a decent academy, so there should be no reason why we should fear anybody.
Do you think there is an element of these Premier League youth players, without which they already get a lot at a young age? I know this. I know that a few of the Chelsea boys that I used to teach, funnily enough, signed up by the Chelsea academies, and immediately they were on not hundreds of thousands of pounds, thousands of pounds, 4-figure sums a week, okay? And they were already being given certain privileges, including housing and things like that for family and stuff like that. So they're being rewarded purely for the sake, in the instance of Chelsea, to keep other clubs away from these players, so that in the coming seasons, Chelsea can then take that player and send him to play in every league across Europe except for the Premier League. But anyway, that's another issue. But do you think that a lot of these academy type don't quite have that same desire to sort of push themselves and really go for things because they kind of have things already handed to them? That might be a little bit of a catch-all generalisation, and it might be a little bit unfair, but it does seem that our players, we sort of have this motto at the academy of this homegrown and hungry, and as much as the phrase, there's a little bit that doesn't quite sit well with me, but the idea of being hungry does definitely come into it, I think. And the attitude in which I think we approach these FA Youth Cup games these aren't development games. These aren't games, putting practice from training putting our training into practice. This is us actually going for a trophy and being able to win something. And do you think that gives us that extra edge? And then simultaneously, does that bring us back to, as you're saying, this crazy gang togetherness that seems to be generated in the academy by Mark Robinson?
Yeah, I can't disagree with it. I think you're right. I think, if you're on the books of Chelsea, or Newcastle or Man United and stuff, maybe you have thought you've got to the level already and you're going to progress through their teams. Let's be fair, if you look at a Chelsea record of bringing anybody through from their academy into their first team, I think anyone that's got close to it is what's his name?
Yeah, Loftus-Cheek, yeah.
Loftus-Cheek, I was going to Rufus-Cheek. Loftus-Cheek, and even he's struggling to get through. So if you're at Chelsea Academy, I would by always say, why are you there? Because you're not going to get. You're going to have to probably be a young Messi to get into their first team. I think with the players, I think we do drum it into them that there is a chance for you to progress. It's been proven. Like I say, a few of them have got mates already, or seen people like Ashikaja on the bench already, Will Nightingale, who come through similarly from the Sunday League football, Ryan Sweeney. There's a lot already that are proof that if they work hard, they will get rewards, and we do reward people. So I think, if you're on a salary at a big club, I know people like Rio Ferdinand, Paul Scholes have already said that players shouldn't be rewarded for not achieving nothing. How should they be coming into training in Jeeps and, say Rolls Royces? I don't think they want a Rolls Royce, would they? But, it's a status thing. They shouldn't have too much too early. But, again, the amount of money in the Premiership, it's got to go somewhere, isn't it? So, I think I must admit, the homegrown and hungry, I quite liked it. I know it sounds a bit corny, but I really liked it.
Yeah, that's the only thing I would say about it. Is I find it a little bit cheesy, but it works. It's obviously working for the academy at the moment and their players, isn't it? They're buying into it.
They are, and it's interesting. My interviews, and what I would say, I don't know if you've had a chance to see the interviews on a Dons player this week. How refreshing it was to see Paul Canabaye was on there, and also Alf Egan was on there with Will Mannion. And I have to say that it isn't all down to Mike Robinson, so we're not going to call him some sort of messiah, but people who have been around the under 18s have educated these kids so well. They talk so well. They talk with a lot of passion, a lot of sense. Alf Egan was basically honestly saying, if we do our thing, no one's going to beat us. Very straight, it wasn't very much a cocky statement. It was just saying, we believe, we do it, we know we can, we win. And you have to say that's a great attitude to have. And saying with that, we are hoping to have a few of them actually joining us on the podcast. I hope it's not exclusive, but we have already sort of arranged with a few of them now to join us. And I don't think we're going to have any problems really talking to them, Nick, because I think they're quite switched on already, aren't they?
I think they're very switched on. We get a lot of positive reports about our under-18s from those that volunteer at the club on a match day, and when they come round, and they're very polite, they're fantastic to deal with. They are great representatives of the football club, and I think we've spoken about Mark Robertson. Of course, there are others behind the scenes that play a part in this, like you touched on there. Jeremy Sawyer is a name that comes to mind, I think. Possibly one. Say again, sorry?
He heads up the academy now, so Jeremy's kept himself very much at the back.
Yeah, definitely.
But actually does head it up now. But I think Mark Robinson's seen more of the. I think he's seen as more of the vocal, sort of like the visual side of it. But again, by what I hear, Jeremy again has been massive involved in that as well.
And he touched on there having this confidence without being arrogant about getting results, and that does seem to link in very neatly with the Crazy Gang sort of spirit. The Crazy Gang era, of course, we're talking, well, some people have different opinions on this, but I would certainly say that Peter Beardsley was a player that probably played against the old Crazy Gang. I think that's fair to say. He was present at St James's Park last Wednesday, and he actually came to speak to our team, to all the players and the coach and the staff afterwards. He came into the dressing room and had a quick word. We've been very fortunate to get access to the audio, and we'll play it for you now. So this is Peter Beardsley walking into our changing room after the cup tie with Newcastle last week.
And we think we're a big club, and we are a big club. But I have to say, I tear my heart here, lad. You were fantastic. And it would have been an injustice if you hadn't won. I really mean that. Even though I work for Newcastle, and obviously I want my team to win, but it was a pleasure to watch it. Every one of you from the start to the finish, and you deserve everything you get, lads. Good luck with the next round.
Now, Peter Beardsley walked in on quite a raucous scene in the changing room afterwards. There was lots of songs being sung, lots of very happy Wimbledon players and management dancing around the changing room. But when Peter Beardsley walked in, it was total respect, stopped, Not a sound was uttered. Everyone stopped and listened to what he said. Very, very respectful. I think you have to be when there's a legend like Peter Beardsley walks into the room. But for players of this age, I mean, Peter Beardsley was realistically before their time, really. But that just shows you how well versed they are in their football to know who he was and how respectful he was. And Stu, what a gesture from him to come in and say those words.
Yeah, it shows you sometimes, these big clubs, Newcastle are a massive club, but it just shows you sometimes actually what example they can lead. It must be, he works for Newcastle. I'm not sure what his role is now in Newcastle. I imagine it's very much, I don't think I might be totally wrong, but I don't think it is to do too much with the youth side of it, but probably more than the ambassador. And what better ambassador can you have as Peter Beardsley? But for him to come down and take the time out to say actually that, he works for the club and he's probably a Geordie, definitely is a Geordie, because just got to listen to him talking to know that. To say that, it would be a travesty if they had it on one, it's massive, isn't it? And it's, I think it reflects well in Newcastle. From all accounts, I know a few of the guys that went up there, I know a few guys went up with just travelling with the fan base, but I also know a few that travelled up on the team coach, and they said Newcastle looked after them so well, and was so well looked after, and they actually said that I think the evening was made just that a little bit better for the fact of how well they were looked after by a Premiership club. And I think, I think that it doesn't take much, does it? It doesn't take much to lead by example. What even?
We didn't get reports of being treated. We didn't get reports. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I'm just saying that we did not get reports of any of our team or our fans being treated particularly nicely at Watford. I'm just saying, okay? Just saying.
Watford done well. I just drove off a stand for us, I think, to Watford, what I hear.
Watford just do well generally to put one foot in front of the other. No, that's maybe a bit harsh, but listeners, I'm not a big fan of Watford. But speaking of people I'm not a big fan of, it's possible in the next round. Well, it is definite that in the next round we're going to get a chance to welcome a Premier League youth team to Kingsmeadow. I think this isn't confirmed yet. At the moment, we are definitely playing the winners of Manchester United and Chelsea, who play next Friday. At the moment, I think it's scheduled for the 22nd of January. We will play the winners in a home tie. I'm assuming at this stage it's going to be played at Kingsmeadow, but I'm pretty sure. I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Where else would you play it?
Well, you could play it at the training ground or at Kingstonian's ground. See what I did there. But no, I'm assuming it's definitely going to be at Kingsmeadow. At the moment, the game's scheduled for the 6th of February with a 7 o'clock kickoff. I think that's just for administrative purposes. I'm sure it'll get changed to like a midweek game or whatever, an evening kickoff. Chelsea or Manchester United? Chelsea or Manchester United? Who would you like to play?
Who would I like to play?
I'm
a truth, I'd always go for Man United.
Yes.
Just because if I look at youth teams and successful youth teams, I think a lot of them come from Manchester United.
Yes.
They've always had a great youth academy. Chelsea's local neighbours, but they're going to share our ground soon anyway, so they're going to, share our ground, they're going to own their ground soon, aren't they, and play their games there. So I'd rather have Manchester United. I think I would love to go to be a sellout, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't sell out. I know a few people on social media from Wednesday night, to be fair, have been going, it will sell out. Some going, no, it won't sell out. Why would it sell out? I think if we priced it right, I think the game would sell out easily, just for the fact of that Manchester United or Chelsea, let's be fair, they're both a brand. No matter what you say, Chelsea for the local interest, Manchester United because there's a lot of Manchester United fans and the brand it is. They want to see what the kids are for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And also you'd hope that Wimbledon fans will come out, and I can't see it being much more than a fiver to get in. If the club tried to charge more than that, I'd be quite disappointed. There's no reason to try and make money out of the youth team. Whatever they've done now, should be rewarded with a sellout. And I can't wait for the truth. I think it's great. I think the youth. I'm very passionate about the youth team and how much this is massively important to the growth of our club. And I think they should be rewarded. And you could tell, couldn't you? You could tell that they would just absolutely chuck the bits. They're going to play either Manchester United or Chelsea next round. And reward them with a sellout.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I'd also agree with you. I'd rather play Manchester United. Chelsea would definitely sell out, in my opinion, because it's local. A lot of families or kids that can't get to the main Chelsea games or whatever would like to come down just to glimpse whoever they can at the football club. Manchester United, I remember many, many years ago at Selhurst Park, I think, going to watch us play Manchester United in an FA Youth Cup fixture. I think it might have been in the days of two-legged fixtures and then the return at Old Trafford another time. But I'm sure the attendance at Selhurst Park that day would sell out Kingsmeadow today. I can't see any reason why that wouldn't happen again.
Yeah, it can be quite sad to just say I do remember that, because it was actually a date of when Jason Newell and Carl Court were in the youth, and I went to Old Trafford for the first. It was a semi-final, I believe.
That's right. Yeah,
and it was the year after the famous Ryan Giggs, David Beckham, because it was. I remember it well because like I say, I had a good friend in there, Eddie Piper, who played with Jason Newell in that team, and drew one each, and Phil Neville was the captain for Manchester United.
I'm trying to think actually, because I'm thinking back to those. Yeah, because I remember going to the game at Selhurst Park. I think that would have been the year John Curtis, who was tipped very highly, very, very highly in his younger years, was playing for Manchester United. I think Michael Appleton would have been in that year as well. Do you know that? Funnily enough, just to bring things through in a nice circle, he'd have been about that time as well.
Possibly could have been. Yeah, possibly could have been. But yeah, the game got a very good attendance that year. To be fair, like I say, the youth. It was, I think, Manchester United fans obviously definitely come in their numbers. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Chelsea would definitely sell out, but I still would argue if we priced it correctly, I still think we'd sell out. And I don't like I say the club as a whole. After last year's FA Cup game against Liverpool for the first team, price it sensibly. I think they would do the right thing and price it. All I would ask is the club be sensible and make sure seating holders, those trust members, etc., get first choice to tickets, because I would hate to have a home game and be outnumbered heavily by United fans or Chelsea fans.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'd probably have to treat it as if it was a first team fixture, I think, and with all the same logistical things that we normally have to do in terms of segregation policing and all that sort of jazz, probably.
Yeah.
You mentioned social media. How was social media on the night of the Newcastle game?
It was quite bad, to be fair. We on the 9 Year Podcast now on Twitter, we are, by the way, thankful to all the people that have either joined us or moved over from AFTW Scope. We're now hitting about 320 followers now, so we had a lot of activity through the evening. We even had some interaction with John Green again on Wednesday night, who I think found it unbelievable that we were playing a team. We were playing Newcastle and we could get Manchester United for Chelsea, and even said, how can I get a ticket? I think he was amazed that, let's be fair, in America, I don't think you get that. Over here you do, so it's quite interesting. We had a lot of activity, a lot of people sending pictures in. We had a few people that went up there. I would say that in one evening, we probably got more traffic through that than probably a first team game gets, which is quite mad, really, isn't it?
It is, and just shows you what great supporters we have and how we like to, make sure that we are a proper community club at every single level, proper fans club at every single level. That includes the under-18s, that includes the youth teams, that includes the ladies teams. You know what I mean? We're not just a first team. We go a lot deeper than that. And it was, yes, very, very busy. Lots of interaction on social media, and that will continue and hopefully step up more now that we're back in first team action this Saturday. But before we get on to looking ahead to this weekend's action, two things we'll cover quickly. Number one is, Stu, have you got any idea? Have you been able to give any thought to my little teaser at the start of the show? I might be able to give. Go on.
I think I do. I think if I remember properly, I may be wrong. But I think it goes back to our conversation we had we had a conversation at the time, but I think we went back a little while ago about old games. I swear it was a game where we played a team that I think looked like they were about 15. I can't remember the name. I think it went to penalties, if I remember properly.
Okay, I'll tell you this now. It definitely went to penalties. So anyone listening that's still playing along, trying to think of it, it did go to penalties. I'm not giving away anything but we shall come to the answer shortly. Other thing is birthdays. Birthday games. I have... no, yours is... I can't remember when your birthday is, Stu. I forget every single year. Every year. I know, we always forget each other's birthday, which is ridiculous. 3 birthdays then on January the 14th. Today, Thursday, this podcast is released on January the 14th, so 3 birthdays from January the 14th. A footballing birthday will come to last. Let's get a couple of other famous names out of the way. Let's start with a football-related birthday in Frankie Sanford, Saturday's singer and wife of Wayne Bridge, I believe.
Really? Oh, yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, she's married to Wayne Bridge, yeah.
And John Terry not inside at all,
Not on this occasion, as far as we know.
I don't know. She doesn't look like she's... I don't think she's over 30 yet. I think she's probably... I think she's late 20s, say 29.
Oh, you went too far, but 26. You're in the right ballpark. She's 26. 26, yes.
When did they start?
Well, she was in...
For ages,
The Saturdays have been around for a little bit of time now, actually. But do you know what? She was a pop star when she was about 11 with S Club, whatever they were. S Club, not the first lot, not your favourites.
S Club Juniors.
The little ones, sort of like, sort of the mascots of S Club 7.
The academy team of the S Club 7.
Yeah, the ball boys and girls of S Club 7, if that makes it easier for you.
Those ball boys.
Thank you very much for the end of season clip show. 26 then, Frankie Sanford. Here's a wrestler for you. As I noticed I had a wrestler birthday, I had to use it. First time on this show. For those of you who are wondering, yes, I am very much enjoying my WWE Divas calendar for 2016. Thank you. Summer Rae is adorning my wall right now. Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Famous wrestler from the late 80s, early 90s.
I used to love Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the way he's big entry. That would be
I don't think we should be talking about ring entries on this show, Stu. But maybe we'll save that for the late night one. Him entering the ring with his large piece of wood. Yes.
He was a total fruitcake. He looked like, if I can remember him, then we must be looking at 45.
See, this is an interesting one because I'm a big wrestling fan, so I know these things. It's amazing how old. Back in the early 90s, when wrestling was huge in this country at the time of Hulk Hogan and everything like that, I don't think people realised quite how old these men were. He's now 61.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So they do go on to quite an age in that business, ridiculously.
Well, I suppose it's really difficult, isn't it? Because the massive hits that they take and stuff like that, I'm surprised they still could compete at that age.
I know, it is ridiculous. I think we'll see less and less of it though now that sort of certain tests are in place to make sure they're not taking things they shouldn't be taking, if you get my drift. But yes, 61, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Lastly, footballer, goalkeeper, Victor Valdez. I think still currently contracted to Manchester United. I could be wrong.
Yeah, and a quality goalkeeper as that to play reserve football, that's ridiculous. He was a Barcelona for ages, but he comes to their academy. So I don't think he's probably early 30s. I would go to 31.
Oh, nearly. 33.
He comes to their academy, he's been around for ages, but you made me laugh, right? How can a keeper of that quality be sitting on a bench for United? Actually, he's even sitting on the bench because they got Romero, haven't they, as number 2?
Yeah, I don't think he's even on the bench.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Hey, if you want to ask a top quality goalkeeper what it's like not to be able to play for the first team, let's get Ben Wilson and ask him. Oh no, sorry, you said top quality, didn't you? Sorry.
Should we do it? We can always do a Twitter conversation.
Yeah, let's see if he'll reply to us. Maybe we should get him on the podcast, Stu.
We've got Nick. That's horrible, by the way. Yeah, Ben done well for us out at the time of need, and hopefully he does well in his career at Cardiff.
On Saturday at Kingsmeadow, Mansfield, the purveyors of wonderful one-touch, free-flying, passing football. What do you reckon, Stu? What's your prediction looking ahead to Saturday's game?
I think it's a tough game. I think it's a massively tough game. Mansfield form is ridiculous when you look at it in terms of where they're sitting now. They're sitting just outside the playoffs. Apparently, I'm not thinking too much of their goals actually this year, but they did obviously change it around, didn't they? Got rid of a lot of players during the summer, wanted to try and play football, which was nice rather than trying to beat teams up. I don't think they've lost that streak, but you have to look at them, 8th in the table, plus 10 goal difference, which is quite big at this stage. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. I was looking, as I'm sad Saturday nowadays, I really should stop looking at stats, but we've not beaten them yet since we returned to the Football League. Which is scary as anything. So look at it, we beat them in terms of in the conference. I think people remember our famous 1-0 win up there with Sebastian Browns, who saved 2 penalties, and a 5-2 win up there. But since then, we haven't beaten them. So we've got to do something we haven't done yet in our previous League 2 history.
Yeah, that's quite mad when I think about it, because to be honest with you, in the conference days, it was. I know we had the famous game where Seb saved 2 penalties, but even that day, I wasn't particularly impressed with Mansfield. I've always seen us as having a good record against them, but no, I suppose it sort of slipped under the radar. I think we had a midweek game up there last year, didn't we? Which didn't go quite according to plan. Obviously, we had a couple of years ago, we went up there, we lost 1-0 with a dodgy free kick, and we've not beaten them at Kingsmeadow either. Wow.
No, the last time we beat Kingsmeadow was 22nd of April 2011. It's pretty well.
Wow. And allied to that, the fact we are, 4 games without a win at home?
Yeah, the home form's something we've got to work out. Don't get me wrong, it's sort of like, when you get to January, I've always been the one who wants to look at stats and go, right, where are we? What have we done the first half, second half of the league, Chancellor window open. I'm just sure we'll touch on a little while. But, yeah, our home form is just shocking. 4 wins all season. And if you looked at a league form, we are 16th in the home league table, which is crazy when you think about last year, how good our home form was. If only we had replicated our home form from last year and kept our away form from here, 5 wins already away from home. Yeah, we've just got to address the home form, and it's like if we do that, then I'm confident our away form will continue where it is. So you can see what we've got to do for the last part of the season is just get some home wins on the board.
Will we win on Saturday?
I'm always positive. I sense a draw. I sense a tight game. I don't think we'll lose, put it that way, but I think I'm going to go for a draw with maybe the outside of a chance for a win, but my draw will be my favourite of it.
Cool, okay. Is there anything else in League 2 on Saturday that has taken your eye, looking at the fixtures?
Yeah, looking at the fixtures, there ain't an awful lot around. Accrington at home to Pomfret. Not too sure. I think Accrington have released, well, not released a couple of players, but I know they've got some deals from Rangers who are nicking anything they can in the Football League with Windass going up there. It'd be interesting to see how that affects them because, of course, they're sitting in a playoff position at the moment. But they're at home to Pompey. Yeovil have got a tough game up at Morecambe, a bit of travelling. There's nothing really new at home to Cambridge. Cambridge losing on the second game on the spin after Crawley beating them on Saturday. So I say, pretty interesting game there for Luton. Cambridge need to balance with that. There's not a lot about it, is there, really?
It's not the most inspiring fixture list. I'm looking at York, Newport, because Newport are still sort of battling down there. They're not out of trouble by a long stretch yet, so I guess that's a big game down at the bottom. But otherwise, yeah, nothing particularly inspiring. The big news coming out of League 2 this weekend, obviously, is a couple of managerial appointments. Luton have finally ended their search for a new manager. We've gone for Nathan Jones, the former Brighton and Hove Albion left-back. I'm sure he was left-back, Nathan Jones. Interesting appointment. Young manager, in his early 40s. First managerial position. Interesting appointment from Luton. Obviously, there's a link there. He did play for Luton many, many years ago. And they do like to have some form of link with the club as well. Notts County as well. Jamie Fullerton named as their new manager, replacing the sacked Ricardo Muniz. Jamie Fullerton would have played against us in the Premier League, I believe, when Palace were in the Premier League in the late 90s. But it's not a name that really rings a bell. But he's been given an opportunity. He's been coaching, apparently, with Palace and Bolton. So he's obviously got experience, somewhere along the line, but his first managerial position.
Interesting that 2 teams, like I say, Luton interested and Luton have gone for not such a big name. I know David James was linked with that managerial position, wasn't it? But not that maybe it was ever even serious that he could be considered. But interesting they've gone for people that are probably more first jobbers, aren't they?
Yeah.
Got the coaching badges. Notts County, to be fair, had to do something. They got their recruitment totally wrong with Nunez. And just really disappointed that they brought in a new manager just before we go play him in a couple of weeks. That's always frustrating. It's
always the way, but you know what? I do applaud Notts County for sort of not going on the old managerial merry-go-round and what have you and going for someone a bit different, a young manager giving an opportunity. I do wonder, though, I think there are some times when you're in a position where you actually think you just want to stabilise for a bit and get maybe an experienced hand in just to steady the ship for a little while. I think that's probably what Notts County need at the moment after a relegation last season and a bit of a disastrous time under Muniz.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I didn't say I reckon Notts County fans coming to the league thinking, probably the Pompey syndrome and stuff like that. I wish coming in, big club, big ground, that sort of stuff. But they haven't, have they, really? And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see how they go. They've got some, I still think they've got players in that team really that don't really want to be in this league. I'd probably be paying a hefty sum, Stead and McLeod don't come cheap. So you wonder actually whether it needs a little bit of a clear out maybe in the summer for them, or if they may even try and shift some in the window.
Don't forget, you can predict the outcome of our game with Mansfield on the Ask a Prediction League. We'll link to that on our Twitter site at 9YRS Podcast. And thank you very much for all of those of you that have been engaging with us on social media, on Facebook as well, 9YRS Podcast. Don't forget to follow those. Periscope updates will be in action. on Saturday for the visit of Mansfield. Don't forget that as well. So on the Periscope app, and follow again all the links on our Twitter site. We'll be able to get you there and follow along at 9YRS Podcast. Teaser. Stu, did you get a name of a team that we played in the London Senior Cup? Could you manage? Did you get there? Could you drag that name out of your memory banks?
No, I think it was so Roman.
It was.
I think if I remember, it was extra time penalties. I think we won. But that's as much. But I do remember it because I remember saying to you, really weird what things you remember, but I remember saying to you at the time, you did say bring your under 15 team.
Wow.
But they did, they ran rings around us at that time. But we somehow managed to get a win. And I think I remember probably we stood in the old, what John's wing stand now, isn't it? We stood.
We did, and we watched the penalties from there. It was Brimsdown Rovers.
Yeah, them.
Brimsdown Rovers, and a 3-3 draw after extra time. I think it was 2-2 after normal time, after we'd come from 2-0 down. Got it back to 2-2, 3-2, 3-3, and then finally a victory on penalties. I think we might have converted all our penalties that night for a 5-4 as well. So there we go. Brimsdown Rovers in the preliminary round of the London Senior Cup, I think it was.
It must have, because I don't think we had. Did we have to in the first? Maybe we were allowed in the first season.
It was the first season, yeah. It was when we were in the CCL, but we had to enter a preliminary round, I think, before we got into the first round proper, where we played against your team, Woodford Town. Where Danny Okin scored against you from the halfway line.
Isn't it funny now, right? We actually play our under 21 in that competition now.
Yes, it just shows you how far we've come, and it kind of actually brings us quite nicely around to what we're talking about the academy today on today's show. When you look at some of the young players that we used to look at coming through into the first team, getting their chances, and how happy we were, and now the level we're at now, it's mad really to think how far we have come in such a short space of time. And I don't mean this in any disrespect to the names of maybe Niall Connerys and Luke Pigtons and players such as that, but we're at a whole new level now, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, thank you very much, Stu.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for listening. We shall be back next week when we'll be joined by Mark Lawrenson to discuss his love of Stephen Pienaar. We'll see you then.